Recently unearthed video of Snoop Dogg and Tupac has just come to light. Rare footage that was never supposed to surface publicly.
Even when he played Hit 'Em Up the song, I didn't like the song.
Did you feel like it was too much?
I didn't like it.
Right.
I didn't like it.
This newly revealed clip doesn't just blur what we knew about Tupac and Snoop's connection. It completely redefines the timeline of Tupac's last days. And when investigators uncovered the source of this footage, the truth left everyone in disbelief. For years, fans assumed every fact about Tupac Shakur's final chapter had already been exposed, every image, every statement, every rumor analyzed to exhaustion. Yet suddenly, a strange new video emerged online showing Snoop and Tupac together after the date many believed Tupac was gone. At first, people dismissed it as another fake or digital trick. But once analysts began inspecting each frame, odd details and recognizable voices started to surface. The location, the tone, even Tupac's gestures hinted at something far deeper. In hip-hop history, few friendships have fascinated audiences more than the alliance between Snoop Dogg and Tupac Shakur. These two icons of the West Coast scene, both born in 1971, helped define a generation of rap that still echoes through today's music. But what most people never realized is that recently leaked visuals and new information have completely reshaped how we view their relationship, revealing something far more personal and emotional than the simple stories we've been told. The tale of Snoop and Tupac isn't just about hit records or shared fame. It's a story of mentorship, brotherhood, and loyalty that survived in an industry filled with tension, even as outside pressures tried to divide them. And now, with unseen clips recovered from MTV archives and private collections, their connection is being seen from a completely different angle, one that overturns everything we thought we knew about those tense months before Tupac's tragic passing on September 13, 1996. Let's rewind to where their journey began. The year was 1993, the setting, a rap party for the film Poetic Justice in Los Angeles. Snoop Dogg, riding the wave of his breakout debut Dogger Style, was already a major figure in the rap world. But that night, a single encounter would alter his path forever.
I finally got a chance to meet Pac in 1993 at a rap party for Poetic Justice in LA. And on that night, Pac passed me my first blunt.
Now, you might wonder, a blunt? That's the moment that changed everything? But stay with me, because that exchange symbolized far more than a casual smoke session. Tupac was the first to introduce Snoop to blunt rolling, a ritual Snoop later credited for shaping his calm, relaxed image that became his signature vibe.
That's right, Tupac is the one that got Snoop Dogg smoking blunts. You see, I was a zigzag man before that shit.
It wasn't just about the smoke, it was about vision. Tupac noticed something in Snoop, raw potential that even Snoop hadn't seen in himself. And that habit of Tupac believing in Snoop, constantly pushing him to rise above expectations, would define their entire bond. Jump ahead to 1995. Tupac was behind bars, his career hanging in uncertainty. Yet Snoop recognized a chance for rebirth.
And then, in 1995, I told Suge Knight, I said, Suge, get Pac out of prison, have him come join our team at Death Row Records, you know, the most unfuckwittable record label of all time.
When Tupac signed with Death Row Records after walking free, something electric happened. Both artists, standing at critical points in their lives, found more than music, they found brotherhood. The chemistry between them was undeniable. Tupac's explosive energy met Snoop's effortless cool, forming a contrast that birthed some of hip-hop's greatest collaborations. Their joint anthem, Two of America's Most Wanted, from Tupac's groundbreaking double LP All Eyes on Me, the first of its kind in rap, became a defining West Coast classic that still holds power today. But the strength of the new footage lies beyond the tracks. It captures how deep their friendship really went. Not just studio moments, but genuine family ties. When Snoop's first son, Cord, was born in 1994, Tupac stepped in as an uncle figure. Picture it, Snoop in the booth recording THA Dogfather while Tupac sits nearby feeding the baby McDonald's fries during endless sessions. Even Snoop later joked that Tupac acted more like a father than he did, saying Pac taught him to put family first, even in the storm of fame. Think about that for a second. Here's Tupac Shakur, one of the most passionate, relentless figures in hip-hop, taking time out to guide his close friend on how to become a better father. This wasn't for cameras or clout. It was authentic brotherhood and mentorship at its purest. And it went even further. Tupac even took on the role of matchmaker, urging a doubtful Snoop to marry his longtime love, Shante Broadus, back in 1997. The two remain together to this day, a living reflection of Tupac's wisdom and the depth of his care for Snoop that reached far beyond music or fame. Now, let's shift to the footage that has recently surfaced, because in these raw, private moments, the truth about their connection truly comes alive. One rarely seen clip dated February 22, 1996, captures a celebration only weeks after Snoop was cleared in the 1993 Philip Waldemariam murder case, a trial that nearly ended his career. Friends and label mates gathered for a victory dinner at Monty Steakhouse in Los Angeles, Death Row's go-to spot for wins. In that minute-long reel, we see Tupac and Snoop in a dim parking lot outside, No words, no posing, just real happiness between two brothers savoring relief amid chaos. This short recording matters because it captures them as family, not artists, but men, united before fame and conflict began dividing them. This was before any tension, before the silence. This was the Snoop and Tupac that fans still cherish, two young icons holding each other up through chaos. But maybe the most eye-opening material comes from the two of America's most wanted behind-the-scenes footage. Shot in Los Angeles right after Tupac's prison release in late 1995, it documents far more than a video shoot. It reveals creative energy in its rawest form. Inside the studio, Tupac dressed in a plain white tee, Snoop suited with his trademark hat, their chemistry effortless. Snoop calls Tupac his biggest critic, biggest fan, and closest friend, someone who sharpened his edge without pride getting in the way. The two joke about intellectual gangster rap, comparing figures like Al Capone and John Gotti to the modern street icons. They discuss contrasts, Tupac the fiery hustler, Snoop the cool professional. Then comes a chillingly prophetic scene. Both artists predicting their video would define 1996 hip-hop era. Tupac beams with confidence about the future. Neither had any clue that tragedy was already closing in, that this brotherhood was soon to unravel. By mid-1996, the entire rap world had turned volatile. The growing feud between Death Row on the West Coast and Bad Boy on the East had evolved from friendly competition into something far darker, personal, dangerous, and explosive. And right in the middle stood two friends whose relationship was about to face its breaking point. To truly grasp what divided Snoop and Tupac, we need to look inside Tupac's mindset during that storm. Fresh out of prison and still haunted by the 1994 Quad Studio shooting, which he blamed on East Coast rivals like Notorious B.I.G. and Puff Daddy, Tupac adopted an all-or-nothing loyalty code. For him, allegiance to Death Row was sacred. Anything less than complete devotion to the West was betrayal. But Snoop's perspective was different. He wasn't wired for endless conflict, not for the kind of war Tupac was ready to fight. That clash in worldviews would soon tear their brotherhood apart. The moment everything cracked came during a New York radio interview when Snoop referred to Biggie and Puff as homeboys, openly complimenting their artistry despite the ongoing feud. To most, that sounded like maturity, an attempt to bridge rival coasts through respect. But to Tupac, already consumed by anger and mistrust, it felt like the ultimate betrayal. We have to stop here and understand his mindset. This wasn't simple ego or pride. It ran much deeper. Tupac felt abandoned. In his eyes, Snoop hadn't checked in during his prison sentence or stood beside him after the shooting. Tupac remembered feeding Snoop's baby, guiding him, teaching him how to handle fame. And now, when he needed that same loyalty returned, Snoop seemed to hesitate.
Even when he played Hit 'Em Up the song, I didn't like the song.
Did you feel like it was
I didn't
too
like
much?
it.
Right.
I didn't like it.
This next clip highlights something vital about where Snoop's head was at during that turbulent stretch. He recognized that Tupac's militant attitude, immortalized in the fiery Hit 'Em Up, was crossing from music into real-world danger. Snoop saw that violence existed everywhere, not just inside Death Row, and pretending to be untouchable could lead to disaster. But Tupac didn't share that caution. He confronted Snoop mid-flight on a private jet, and what unfolded became one of the most heartbreaking moments of their entire friendship.
Because my didn't say nothing to me the whole ride. And that's a 5-hour flight on a private plane.
Yeah.
So I walk up to him like maybe 3 hours into the flight, sit next to him like, you going to Vegas, cuz? And he turned on me like this and started talking to somebody else. So I'm like, all right. So I go in the back, put the blanket on my head, knife in my hand, fork in my hand.
Let that sink in for a moment. 5 long hours trapped on a private jet, and Tupac didn't utter a single word to Snoop. Can you imagine the tension, the confusion, the pain running through Snoop's mind? He had gone from being Tupac's protege and closest brother to being completely frozen out. The fact that Snoop felt compelled to carry knives on that very flight says everything about how dangerous and unstable their situation had become. But things only grew more complicated once other voices entered the picture. Members of Tupac's Outlaws crew, including Napoleon, later claimed that Snoop carried jealousy toward Tupac's meteoric rise inside Death Row, where Pac's success quickly began to eclipse Snoop's once dominant position. Suge Knight would eventually allege that both Snoop and Dr. Dre's envy of Tupac's fame and influence played a major part in Death Row's slow collapse. But was there any real truth in those claims? The answer isn't simple. Before Tupac's arrival, Snoop had already been the shining star of Death Row, the label's biggest name and commercial force behind Doggy Style. Then suddenly Tupac joined and, almost overnight, became the new face of the empire. Reports suggest Tupac began viewing Snoop as a so-called studio gangster, fierce in lyrics but hesitant in actual confrontation, a harsh image image later echoed in his fiery diss record Against All Odds. To this day, online discussions, Reddit debates, and X posts continue to frame the conflict as proof that Tupac might have been right all along, painting Snoop as self-interested and ultimately disloyal. But is that really fair to say? Snoop himself later admitted that fear guided many of his decisions during that fallout, carrying weapons and pulling back from a feud simply to safeguard his career. But was that fear weakness or foresight? Was it betrayal or just survival? The truth is, Snoop was thinking about his family, his future, and the bigger picture. He had a newborn baby, a loyal partner, and a long-term vision that stretched far beyond the deadly East-West chaos swallowing hip-hop. Tupac, meanwhile, was acting from a place of raw trauma, paranoia, and an almost tragic acceptance of violence as destiny. Their last face-to-face moment was cold and heartbreaking, when Snoop invited Tupac to the now infamous Las Vegas boxing match. The same night Tupac would later be gunned down, Pac refused, simply saying, "Nah, I'm good." That one line said it all. It was more than a decline. It was the sound of a door closing on a friendship that once felt unbreakable. But here's where the story turns. Newly discovered footage brings new context that completely alters how we understand those final days. Just 3 days before Tupac's death, MTV filmed an interview that has only recently gained proper attention. In that clip, we see another side of both artists, one that challenges the long-accepted story of their alleged rift.
We're gonna make it specific as to what you can talk about and what you can't talk about. And the East Coast, West Coast thing is something that the journalists and people are making just to get paid off it so it can drag out. So they're perpetuating it so it could be drama.
Listen carefully to Tupac's words in that interview. He admits that the media itself was fueling the East-West drama for ratings, stoking fires that didn't need to burn. He speaks of the industry profiting from division. And more telling than anything, sitting right beside him during that conversation is none other than Snoop Dogg.
If it did exist, Pac, we wouldn't be here. So
right, and if it exists, I would be sitting in New York talking about it. We'll try to be better role models, and y'all try to stop putting that drama out there. You got a lot of power, a lot of responsibility. We both do. We both need to exercise greater restraint.
That detail is monumental because it proves that even in their final week, the two were still connected, still appearing publicly together. Tupac openly addressed their influence and accountability as leaders in hip-hop. It wasn't the picture of a shattered friendship that history has painted. The most haunting moment, though, comes from July 4th, 1996, Tupac's last live concert at the House of Blues in West Hollywood. The show, a benefit tied to the Beverly Hills Teen Choice Awards, would unknowingly become his swan song. The 90-minute performance was pure electricity, purple-blue lights flashing, pyrotechnics booming, and a packed crowd of 500 roaring in rhythm. Tupac, shirtless and wearing white pants, commanded the stage like a man on fire, sweating, jumping, swinging the MIC, and diving into the crowd during California Love. Then Snoop emerged for two of America's Most Wanted. He walked out in baggy jeans and a military-style jacket, trading verses in perfect sync with Tupac. The two laughed, ad-libbed, and fed off each other's energy, Snoop dapping Tupac mid-verse as smoke and lasers lit the room. If there was any bad blood left, it was impossible to see it there. What you witness instead are two legends at the very height of their artistry, creating brilliance together for what would be the final time. The weight of this performance can't be overstated. Often described as hip-hop's Last Supper, it captures unfiltered euphoria while concealing the cracks forming beneath. The clip of that duet has since amassed over 100 million views across social media, celebrated for the effortless chemistry that defined the G-Funk era. Warren G would later disclose that an unexpected stop at his house kept Snoop grounded in Los Angeles on September 7, 1996, the night Tupac was gunned down in Las Vegas, a twist of fate that might have saved Snoop's life. The fact that he wasn't on that trip has fueled years of speculation and wild theories, but perhaps the reality is far simpler and far sadder. Snoop stayed behind because the friendship, though still intact, had been deeply wounded by pressures far beyond their control. So, what remains? And what truth are we still not seeing? It's time to dig deeper into legacy, love, and the truth that refuses to fade. When that call came on September 7, 1996, telling him Tupac had been shot, Snoop's entire world froze in place.
I think we was playing a video game, and we kept getting a whole bunch of calls and pages. Somebody told us to turn on the news, and we turned the news on, and we seen the little shit.
After seeing the breaking news, Snoop boarded a flight to Las Vegas without hesitation, consumed by the desperate need to reach his friend, to believe Tupac would once again beat the odds, just as he always had. But what awaited him inside that hospital room would mark him forever.
Right after I heard Tupac got shot, I immediately flew to Vegas, and I walked in the room and I seen him laid out on the bed with all kind of tubes and shit in him, and I was so weak I damn near fell over. And his mom came over to me and she grabbed me, and she held me up and she said, "Baby, you got to be strong." And I went and sat next to him and was whispering to him, telling him I loved him and to hold on and he was gonna be okay.
That quiet, devastating moment, Snoop grasping Tupac's hand, whispering his last words, feeling their spirits connect even as Tupac lay unresponsive. That's where the real story of their bond lives. Not in the radio feuds, the long silences, or the accusations. The truth lies there, in that raw, unspoken love between two brothers who, despite everything, never stopped caring for one another. 6 days later, on September 13, 1996, Tupac Shakur passed away at just 25 years old. And in the years that followed, Snoop carried not only the pain of loss but the heavy mix of regret from those fractured final months. Yet the resurfaced footage, and Snoop's later reflections, prove one lasting truth. Despite the fights, the distance, and all the chaos around them, Snoop has always insisted that the love never died. For nearly 3 decades, his words and actions have echoed that promise. In 2017, when Snoop inducted Tupac into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, his tearful tribute laid bare the strength of their bond and the grief that never left him.
When I sat down to gather my thoughts about my label mate, my homie, and my brother, there's one thought that kept coming back to me. Tupac, the actual human being. And while many remember him now as some kind of thugged out superhero, Tupac knew he was only human. And he represented through his music like no one before. It's a fact that he never shied away from. He wore it like a badge of honor.
Snoop has often spoken about just how deeply Tupac impacted him, describing Pac as the one who saw greater potential in him than he ever saw in himself. He praises Tupac's unmatched drive and tireless discipline, calling it the greatest lesson in focus and determination he ever received.
See, that's the thing with Pac. When he loves hard. Whether that was him loving black people, him loving his homies, him loving his record label, and of course him loving his beautiful and incredibly strong mother, the late Afeni Shakur.
Their virtual reunion at Coachella in 2012 left audiences stunned. Snoop sharing the stage with Tupac's hologram for 2 of America's Most Wanted. It was a moment that felt both futuristic and heartbreaking, a reunion fans had waited 16 long years to witness. To this day, Snoop continues to carry Tupac's lessons with him, referencing them in countless interviews. From artistry to fatherhood, even crediting Pac for shaping the loyalty that's kept his marriage to Shantae strong through decades of fame and struggle. The fact that Snoop and Shantae remain together all these years later stands as living proof of Tupac's wisdom and the depth of his care for those he called family. So, what does this resurfaced footage truly reveal? What truth does it expose that reframes everything we thought we knew? It shows us 2 men who learned from each other, inspired each other, and left behind a legacy that transcends all the chaos, conflict, and tragedy. Because no matter what, one truth remains. Tupac is gone, taken from us far too soon, at just 25 years old. The rift between Tupac and Snoop during those final months was real. The tension, the heartbreak, the silence, all of it. But the passage of time, and the evidence we now have, paints a fuller picture. We now understand that beneath the turmoil, their connection never truly broke. Even as forces around them pulled in opposite directions, the core of their bond, built on brotherhood, respect, and love, remained unshakable. Their energy was one of a kind. Their collaborations still echo through generations. And their story, seen now through newly uncovered footage and decades of reflection, reminds us that even relationships tested by pain, pride, and impossible circumstances can still hold a love that endures beyond death itself. So now, the question turns to you. Do you believe the rift between Tupac and Snoop went deeper than the world ever realized? Let me know your thoughts down below. And if you want to dive deeper into stories like this, click the next video on your screen.